Welcome back to another episode of Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation, right here on Verde Valley TV and KVNA 104.7 FM. I'm your host, Philip Catafamo. We have got a great show in store for you this week. Later in the program, we'll be joined by former Mingus Union two-sport athlete Chayce Doerkson. She'll talk about her game and how she is preparing for the next level. We'll then be joined by AIA State Commissioner of Officials Brian Gessner, who will break down the new shot clock rule and any new changes we could see coming up. But on the other side of this break, we'll be joined by Mingus Union girls golf coach Jeffrey Neugebauer. He'll discuss how his stepchildren sparked his interest in coaching. All of that and a whole lot more coming up right here on Off the Bench. Stay with us.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in Northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I am joined now by the man who will rival me with the most difficult last name to pronounce in the Verde Valley. He is the new Mingus Union High School girls golf coach, Jeffrey Neugebauer. Coach Neugebauer, welcome onto the show.
Thank you so much, Philip. I'm not even going to try your name, which is fine. We'll just call you Coach Philip, okay? Anyway, thank you for having us. This is great.
Well, I'm very, very happy to have you, Coach. First and foremost, congratulations on the new position at Mingus Union High School. Make it very clear, Coach Neugebauer is the technical director at Mingus Union High School. He has been with the high school for a very long time. This is a somewhat new position for him, and we'll talk a little bit about it here. And I think we should start out from the beginning. You got a great story about how you got started in coaching, and it has to do with your stepkids, and I want to allow you to tell that story.
Yeah, when I met my wife 28 years ago, I actually, I got 3 stepkids also. And it was wonderful. Okay. It was probably one of the better things that's ever happened to me in that it was interesting. You know, stepkids are very difficult to handle, especially with a mama bear that is extremely, how shall we say, ruthless, not ruthless. Anyway, so it was sort of a lose-lose because in the beginning that we were dancing around each other, but it turned into a wonderful win-win. Yeah. And the 3 boys are extremely close to me, and we have a wonderful relationship. So anyway, that's how I started teaching AYSO, because they were deeply involved in the upper levels, and then I also started teaching a lower level. Which sometimes I called swarm soccer, yes. Because they were 4 or 5 years old, and they just followed the ball, and that was an awful lot of fun. And that segued into me also being a ref for AYSO. So that was fun. That's how I got started coaching, and that was quite a long time ago.
Swarm soccer definitely sounds very, like you said, it's just a bunch of kids swarming the soccer ball. And it's very self-explanatory there when it comes to swarm soccer. Again, AYSO is, of course, the soccer program that's, I think it's worldwide. A lot of states and cities have a AYSO program. I know my hometown did. But anyway, Coach Neugebauer also was a teacher at Camp Verde before making his way to Mingus Union High School, teaching the senior skills. You were a Senior Skills USA advisor, and during that time earned multiple state championships. Can we talk a little bit about just what that role is, what you were teaching the kids, what you guys were preparing for, and how that kind of grew you as a coach?
Well, the skills program is a actually international program, and it's for trades. And it's very similar to athletics in that you are training the kids, instructing the kids how to keep their head on their shoulders, not to get crazy, not to hurt themselves, and to do the best job they possibly can. I was very successful at Camp Verde, along with several other instructors at Camp Verde. And we had quite a few state championships. And when you get a state championship at skills, you go to nationals. Mm-hmm. And that's an incredible experience for the kids, for the students. So that was a lot of fun, very, very enriching on everybody's part.
Now, of course, at that same time, you did have one season as the JV golf coach for the Cowboys for Camp Verde High School. What was that experience like for you? It was kind of like your first, non-outside of youth sports coaching opportunity. You got a chance just to do it kind of briefly. You can kind of give us the timetable as to when you stopped coaching at Camp Verde and then went over to Mingus. But just what in general was that experience like for you getting that opportunity?
It was a good experience. It was a little different. Most of the kids that I had really never played golf before.
Okay.
And it was really teaching the fundamentals up, and for them to just hopefully keep their heads down longer than or as long as they needed to, instead of always picking them up. And it was good. It was fun. It was fun because the kids really wanted to do it. We went to many, many meets, and just enjoyed it beyond belief. An interesting story is that I was playing Agave Highlands in Cornwall, and we were paired up with another couple golfers. And the one golfer looked at me and went, "You're not Mr. N that taught at Camp Verde High School, are you?" And I went, "Yeah, that was me." And it happened to be one of my students from a long time ago, okay, that I coached. And, it was amazing to see that he actually continued in the sport and was not bad at it either. So that was fun.
Yeah. And how rewarding for you as a coach, like you just said, to see a kid that, like you said, when you got him as a JV player, probably not the best. Like you said, they pull their heads out when they didn't need to on that backswing, or maybe it just messed up a little bit. But how interesting for you as a coach to go full circle there and to see that, hey, they kept playing the sport, they kept playing golf, and they kept going with it. How awesome is that? And I know you've probably seen a lot of students, go on, whether it's when you were a senior skills advisor, or even now with your position in the theater department, where you've probably seen a lot of your students go on to bigger and better things. But how cool as a first-time coach, you get a chance to come almost revisit that time of your life and see one of your students with a lot of success.
Totally agree. It was fun. It was fun. You would have never, out of the blue, it's just. Yeah.
And how interesting that is, he remembered you. You got a very memorable last name, of course, but how cool that he remembered you and clearly had a lot of fond memories with you as his coach, because he didn't stop playing the sport of golf. I'm curious though, did you play golf in high school? Are you just a golfer in general? What kind of sparked your interest in the sport in general? I started playing golf around 11 or 12. Okay. Did just the normal playing golf, taking lessons, being with my dad, playing golf. I did play in high school. Okay. I lettered in golf in high school. A normal progression. I quit playing golf at 18. Okay. When I went to college, and didn't take it back up for probably a good 22 years. So, of course, I'm showing my age at this point. However, yes, I am a little old, but that's okay. Yes, but now you're back. You're taking over the position at Mingus Union High School. Just curious, any coaches that you kind of look for inspiration, whether it be at the professional level, any kind of colleagues that you've met along the way at the college level? Is there anybody that you kind of look for and go, that's kind of the model that I want to use when I coach this program?
What an interesting, that's hard to say. I look for inspiration to everybody, in that, everybody can teach me or anybody anything at any particular point. I know I'm going to be relying on Coach Fuller a lot, because he's going to be an assistant for both programs, boys and girls, and because I've been out of it for a while, so I need to ramp up my the nuts and bolts of coaching again. But that's going to be fun too.
That coaching rust.
I'm sorry, sir.
Got to shake off the coaching rust.
Yes, most definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but you're still currently serving, as I mentioned, you're the technical director for Mingus Union High School. So you've been at the high school for a while. In a lot of ways, as a advisor, as a director, as a teacher, you are still kind of keeping that coaching mentality. You're still kind of, helping out kids when they have questions, obviously, and showing them how to do things correctly. It's just a different aspect now. So yeah, of course, you like you mentioned, you've surrounded yourself with good assistant coaches. You're shaking off a little bit of that coaching rust, but in a lot of ways, you haven't stopped coaching.
Well, that's interesting because, I consider every teacher a coach.
Yeah. You called me coach a couple minutes ago.
Exactly. Okay. And, every teacher I know or have ever known are instructing, coaching kids to do the best they can with what they got, and to keep learning, to keep striving for, the highest level they can. So, I have a hard time with the terminology coach, because I just consider, being an instructor a coach, and a teacher a coach, and so I'm getting used to that word again as coach, because I'm coaching all the time, but I suppose I'm teaching or instructing all the time too.
Very true. I'm just curious, you had been at Mingus Union for a little while before this position came open. Did you always see yourself wanting to go back to coaching? Did you want to go back to coaching golf? Were you interested in other positions at Mingus Union when they popped up? Could we have seen Coach Neugebauer as the football coach when Mingus was looking at one? I mean, where were you when this position came up? What attracted you to the job?
Okay, I've been wanting to teach golf, or be a coach for golf for many, many years. Yeah. I don't know if you might know some of the scheduling at Mingus Union High School, but it's extremely stressful. Schedule at Mingus Union High School for me. We do 4 or 5 major shows a year. We do another 20 or 30 minors. So the schedule is extremely grueling. The good news is that Mingus has given me an aide now, which gives me a little bit more freedom. And the production schedule for this fall is much easier. So that's why I really jumped on this. The position opened, I jumped on it, and I'm really happy to do it. I am tickled, because in the past it came available, and there was no way I could integrate that and what I do and stay sane.
Well, go ahead.
Well, and as young as I am.
Yes, very, very, very much so. And yeah, I completely understand. I've mentioned it a few times on the show. I have a theater background as well. I was in high school plays when I was playing sports and when I wasn't. Of course, when I was playing sports, it was a little bit harder to be in anything but the classes for theater, because you're right. When you're in production for a play, and I can only speak from my experience as an actor, as opposed to somebody who is helping to construct the entire set, the lights, the stage direction. I mean, there's so many different moving parts with it being a technical theater director. And again, we're speaking with Mingus Union High School girls golf coach Jeffrey Neugebauer. He is the new golf coach for Mingus Union High School, but he is not new to Mingus Union. He is also the he is also the technical theater instructor at Mingus Union High School. But I totally get it. It's a very hectic schedule when you start getting into production for a play. We were having rehearsals after school all the time. I couldn't do sports. I couldn't do plays for the first 2 years because I was doing sports. And then when I stopped playing sports, I finally had more time. But, I said it when we first got the interview started. It's nice to see the two worlds collide of sports and fine arts. They don't collide all the time. but it's nice to see them collide a little bit more, and to see somebody like yourself who has sort of like me, has that sort of that dip into both worlds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fun.
What about the off season? Have we gotten a chance to meet the team yet? Have you guys ran any practices yet? Are they in the future? What has the off season looked like so far?
Right now, it's just, I mean, this is new to me. I think I'm going away for a little bit. Dave is going away. The boys coach is going away for a little bit. Mr. Fuller's probably going to go away for a little bit. So we probably won't ramp anything up for the off season until probably the fourth week in August.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, we can't start full time as far as, real practices, etc., until August something or other.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the off season is still making its way, but of course, golf is a spring sport, so you've got a lot of time to get started, and it sounds like you've got a great plan in place to get this team prepared for the upcoming season. I do want to ask, Coach, before we let you go, what can kids expect when they go through your program?
Wow.
We're getting real deep here. We're getting very deep.
We're getting very deep. I consider any program that I teach to be an organic experience. To totally expect, I don't know, magic's not the right word, but a learning curve, something that organically evolves into something wonderful. It's hard to say because I have so many different ways of teaching and to so many different students that, that's a hard question to ask, to answer rather. And it was very easy to ask, wasn't it?
Easy, yeah.
So anyway, I want them to go away with a feeling of, accomplishment and, self-worth. Yeah. That's a biggie. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a great way to handle that. We all want to be accomplished. We all want to feel that feeling of self-worth. And if a coach can instill that in his players or her into her players, whatever it may be, I think that's fantastic. And Coach, we're excited to see you get started with this program. We will touch base again when we get a little bit closer to the golf season. And we look forward to seeing the Marauders back out on the links very soon.
Thank you. Thanks this is a great program you have. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I very much appreciate it. Again, Mingus Union girls golf coach Jeffrey Neugebauer, the new girls golf coach for Mingus Union High School. Thank you very much again for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by former Mingus Union Marauder Chayce Doerkson. Stay with us here on Off the Bench. We'll be right back.
Two things we can count on every year:
a new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt Tax Office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I am joined now by former Mingus Union two-sport athlete Chayce Doerkson. Chayce, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. First and foremost, congratulations on finishing your senior year. I know that the tail end of your junior year was a little bit weird because of COVID. Mm-hmm. I know you stopped playing sports after the winter season. Chayce played basketball and volleyball at Mingus Union High School. Now she's headed off to Central Arizona College in Coolidge, which we will talk about in a little bit later in the interview. But I want to start out in the beginning here, Chayce. Like I mentioned, two-sport athlete. We'll start with volleyball because technically, I guess right now we're getting close to the fall season. So we'll keep it a little bit more topical. topical. You started playing volleyball as a middle school, right, at Clarkdale Jerome. How was that? How did that get you kind of fired up for the sport?
I really enjoyed it my time at Clarkdale Drone School. We had an amazing coach, Coach Chavez there. And we actually, a lot of our Clarkdale kids ended up playing varsity this last year. Most of our kids were probably from Clarkdale. So I think she had a huge impact on us. And just the way she was able to build us as players helped us in high school.
What made you stick with volleyball for so long? Because like I mentioned, you played as a middle schooler. You could have stopped after your 8th grade year, after your freshman year, but you kept going throughout your 4 years. What about volleyball kept you playing in the sport?
I just enjoyed it. I think I had more to learn from it. And I really like sports in general. So just the competition and being at practice with my teammates kind of made me commit to it.
And how cool for you to get an opportunity. You know, I believe you can correct me some of the names. I know Sadie Backus was one. Mm-hmm. I believe Shelby Link was another one that you played with alongside at Clarkdale Jerome. Obviously, you can fill in a couple of the names that I've forgotten. Mm-hmm. But I mean, how cool for you to not only get a chance to start your volleyball playing career or, you know, whatever. You start playing volleyball at such a young age. You get a chance to basically go through middle school and high school with those same girls. You know, how was that getting to play alongside those teammates for so long?
Yeah, it was so incredible. So the 3 seniors this year were myself, Sadie Backus, and Shelby Link, and we started playing together. I started playing with them in 6th grade, but they had been playing together even before that. So just to have us 3 go through, for me, 7 years, like that's a lot of time. But we became very, very close friends through that, on the court and off the court. You know, we spent a lot of time with each other. So it's just a lifelong friendship that we have now.
Yeah, very cool. We did get a chance to speak with Sadie Backus. She's headed off to Yavapai College, and I believe Shelby is headed off to Grand Canyon University, my alma mater. So congratulations to both of them. And, and of course, like I mentioned, Chayce is headed off to Central Arizona College. So all 3 of you are doing some great things with your academic and playing career. But I do want to ask, you know, obviously the big kind of draw with Chayce Doerkson is the basketball talents. You were a 3-year varsity player. I believe you started your sophomore year and you ended out your senior year, obviously. I mean, first and foremost, Chayce, what got you started playing basketball?
I actually started playing in 2nd grade for a city league team. My dad was my first coach. And so I just saw my brothers playing it as I grew up, and I was like, I want to do that. So we had a hoop in our driveway ever since I was young. So I was always shooting. I was always in the gym, and I just really liked it. And then I came to Arizona in 6th grade, and I saw the team, and I was like, yeah, I want to do this. So I really enjoy it. Yeah.
Now, I mean, you know, like you said, you played alongside your brothers just kind of in pickup basketball. I believe they also went to Mingus Union High School. There's kind of a running theme. A lot of the Dirksens go to Mingus, Chayce being the final one, I believe. But you know, just kind of those early years. I mean, were you able to beat your brothers in pickup basketball, or was it more of like a horse? No, you're shaking your head. That's not a good sign.
We played a lot of 21. I think I beat them in 1 game my whole life, but it's still fun being with them. I like horse more. I'm more skilled at that than I am 21.
No, I mean, but you know, how did that help develop you a little bit more, you know, throughout your playing career? Obviously, your brothers are older than you; they're a little bit bigger than you. Maybe not so much now since you're about 6 foot in height. But you know, I mean, how did that kind of prepare you as you went along in your basketball career? You know, you started facing, you know, as you got older, you started getting into the middle school age of kids. They get a little bit bigger, a little bit older. You head into, you know, your first season at Mingus Union High School. You're playing against Flagstaff High School, Coconino. How did those early years, you know, 21's a little bit more of a fun game to play, but how did that sort of prepare you for the challenge of high school basketball?
It definitely prepared me. My brothers are a lot bigger and stronger than I am. The tallest one is like 6'4", so it's definitely different playing against girls than my brothers. But I think it kind of built my competition and probably that level of mentality. They push around a lot, so that helped me a lot too. They're very tough on me. So
you got a chance to play under Coach Ventura, along with, of course, Coach Troy Hulk and Coach Odell, all 3 instrumental in your playing career at Mingus Union High School. Any advice that Coach Ventura passed along to you, and I'll pass that off to any other coaches as well. Is there anything that kind of stuck with you that you'll remember going forward?
Coach Ventura is really big on fundamentals, and I think that's what's going to stick on me. For my shooting, I like to work on my form a lot. So he really built my form and helped me with that. And he really does like the basic fundamentals once you get that down, and then you strive to do bigger and complicated things. And I think that's what I learned a lot. He also taught me a lot about leadership. I was a captain for 2 years, and so he was really big on that. So I've had a lot of conversations with him about everything. So he has taught me a lot. Yeah.
I mean, let's talk about that. You just mentioned it. For 2 years, you were the captain of the Mingus Union basketball team. I mean, after your sophomore year, you had a little bit of playing time. You're kind of just barely getting a little bit of that early sort of taste of varsity basketball. Your junior year, your statistics go up a little bit more. You're averaging about 8 points a game. This year, you average about, I believe it was 11. But how did you make that turn? How were you able to slowly develop more and more into such a skilled basketball player?
I think I just looked at the players before me. As a sophomore, I had a lot of good players. Seniors years that year, we had Sarah Williams, Darian, Summer, Lindsay, and those were all people I really role modeled after. I really looked at them and was like, hey, what are they doing and how can I be like that? That's who I wanted to be. So I think that really helped me a lot from the transition from sophomore to junior year. That was probably the biggest thing for me. And that year, we actually had a lot of shooters. Those seniors were a lot of shooters. So then going into my junior year, I was like, okay, well, we don't have very many shooters, so who's going to step up? And so I really worked on my form and try to be that person.
Again, we are speaking with former two-sport athlete at Mingus Union High School, Chayce Doerkson. Chayce played volleyball and basketball at Mingus Union. She is currently on her way to go play basketball at Central Arizona College in Coolidge, Arizona. Chayce, you played alongside Taylor Brock. Taylor, a sophomore last year, going into her junior year this year. I've talked a little bit with Coach Ventura about her development, but I want to get your direct involvement with Taylor Brock because, I don't want to say that she's the new Chayce Doerkson because there's never going to be another Chayce Doerkson. Realistically, there isn't. But Taylor is going to be taking on that post role, that leader on the varsity team. There's only a handful of seniors this year and only a handful of girls who had that experience from last season because of COVID. It cut down numbers a little bit. But I want to ask you, Chayce, in general, Taylor Brock, Maddie Mathis, Heaven Claw, Mariana Lopez. We saw all of these girls, even Taya Hoke and Kiki Saravo coming up a little bit later in the season. We saw a lot of these players develop really, really nicely over the years. So I want to ask you, did you pass off any advice to Taylor, any of your other former teammates? Where was her development at the start of the season? What part did you play in sort of helping the younger players this past year?
Yeah, I don't think it was just me. I think it was the coaches and all the older girls, passing off advice and things that we learned over the past years. But man, Taylor Brock, she's a player. She's a bulldog. Yeah. She has really good rebounding, very strong, very physical, which is really good. Her shot's coming along. Once she gets that down, she's going to be unstoppable. And when it comes to leadership, she's going to be a leader. Definitely her senior year, she's building on that. She's working on that. So I think she's incredible. I really like her, and I'm excited to see what she does.
Yeah, we are too. And like I mentioned, what about the other teammates you saw? Like Maddie Mathis came out kind of out of nowhere, ran that second unit very well. Heaven Claw as well. Jade Bach had some nice corner threes throughout the season. Like I mentioned, Taya Hoke. Let's maybe more speak about generally the future of the program. I know you're kind of looking at it now from an outsider's perspective because you're done at Mingus Union. But I'm just curious, where do you feel this team is going forward with the talent they have right now?
Oh, they have a lot of talent on this team. I'm no doubt that they're going to be even better next year. They have a lot of good shooters, Jade for one, and Maddie's an incredible ball handler. Even Rachel has a really good shot. She's making some threes. They're really coachable, very coachable, which is really nice. And that's something that you need on a team, something that girls can work with and work together. I'm so excited to see what they do.
Let's talk about your game a little bit, Chayce, because I kind of categorize you as a stretch 5 or a stretch 4, which basically for those of you who aren't sure is Chayce is the size that you would typically see in a high school center. So Chayce is a little over 6 foot. If you're lucky, some places run the center position a little bit smaller, but the idea of a stretch forward or stretch 5 is basically somebody who has the height and size of a post player, but can run and shoot and pass like a guard. So more of a specific example, maybe like a Pau Gasol for some of you who are just kind of looking more for an NBA reference. But anyway, let me take off my smart guy hat for a second. Chayce, you are a shooter. And as a center, we've seen this kind of become more of a trend where we're seeing a lot more centers be able to stretch the floor as shooters and also as passers. So where have you found that comfortability as a shooter and how this trend of basketball is really kind of, your game is sort of shaped towards that new trend?
Yeah, so I definitely started out as a center, and I still am a center whenever my coach wants me to be, but I like shooting. I love it. And so I've kind of built my shot kind of around the elbow. So not quite a 3, I'm not skilled enough for that yet, but just kind of that mid-range distance is where I like to shoot. And I think it's easier for me to get open there. So I kind of use my strength in that spot, I guess. Yeah.
Well, and that's a good point. I mean, like you mentioned, your mid-range game is something that you kind of want to see from a stretch forward, somebody who can sort of space out the floor a little bit and not be able to not be afraid to shoot a corner three, but also not be afraid to, dribble, drive, and step back and take a jump shot, as we saw Chayce do a few times this season. I do want to ask, though, game days. I mean, I know I miss them sometimes. I didn't get to do them as much as you did, but what are you going to miss about game days?
Oh, just the energy, I think, on the team. You're excited, even when you're in class before the game, you're just thinking about it constantly. And I love that part of it, just being ready for it and imagining what's going to happen during the game. And then, of course, pregame when you're talking to your team and just that camaraderie, probably.
Do you have any kind of pregame routine, any ritual that you did?
The night before each game, when I'm when I'm laying in my bed, I usually kind of visualize things like what I'm going to do tomorrow, what's the plan, who am I going up against. So the night before, definitely. Pregame, just a lot of stretching and just being with my team. Probably we gather up together and we talk. We usually do goals. So we do goals for the team and then goals for individual. And we go in a circle and we talk about that. So that's definitely something we do each game.
Now, Chayce Doerkson is headed off to Central Arizona College in Coolidge. Chayce, why the decision to sign with Central AZ? And where's your focus this offseason preparing for the upcoming season?
I really like the program at Central Arizona College. The coaches are amazing. They've definitely built a program, and I think they really work with each player individually to grow their skill, to get them ready for maybe transferring to university after or whatever their plan is. And so I really like that part about it. So that's probably why I went. I had a tryout with them beginning of May, and so that went well. And so, yeah. During this off season, mostly I'm trying to build my strength. That's my main goal. I'm still in the gym, shooting and keeping up my skill, but the strength is a big thing I'm working on.
Now, what about academic wise? I mean, what's your focus academically for your time at Central Arizona?
I'm going to be getting a general studies associate's degree. And then when I'm going to be transferring to university afterwards, and hopefully doing something in disaster relief, possibly. I'm not decided on that yet.
Well, can I ask why the focus in disaster relief? I mean, I know you're in an area that is susceptible to floods and fires, and we obviously have a lot of fire departments everywhere. And here in northern Arizona, we have a bunch of them, of course. But I'm just curious, where does that come from? Where does that interest come from?
I think it came from since I've gone on several mission trips in the church and just helping people out locally and stuff like that. And I've also was invited to go to Hurricane Harvey and help after that. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go, but it kind of sparked my interest of, wow, that's something I'd want to do. And so we'll see where that leads me, I guess.
I was definitely not looking at it at a global scale. You were 100% right. Disaster relief is way more expanded than just northern Arizona. 100%. Totally agree with that. What about your basketball playing? I mean, like you mentioned, you're going to get a general studies degree. You have plans to transfer to a 4-year university. I know that Central Arizona College has seen a few. I know one specifically that has seen time at the WNBA level. I mean, do you have plans to try to make it to the WNBA? Where is your focus in terms of basketball at Central Arizona?
I think my main focus right now is just to play at Central Arizona and do the best I can and see where that takes me. I got to be realistic, but also dream big. And so if I'm able to go to university after that, that'd be a dream come true. I love that. But right now I'm just focused on Central Arizona.
Well, congratulations, Chayce, and we wish you the best of luck here. We hope that you're able to accomplish everything you want to accomplish at Central Arizona and wherever that 4-year university might be. Again, speaking with former Mingus Union High School two-sport athlete Chayce Doerkson. Chayce, before we let you go, I mean, what are you going to miss in general about going to Mingus Union High School? One last question before we let you go.
Just all the people, I think. Probably all my friends, all my teammates. I've built a lot of relationships through sports, and I think that's one reason why I like sports a lot. I had some really good teachers as well that I think I'm going to miss. I built close relationships with them as well, and so probably that.
Let me throw one more in here while we've got you. How about the community support? You talked a lot about the support from your family. Obviously, the Mingus family is very expansive outside of just, directly playing. A lot of parents, a lot of faculty, a lot of support around you. What can you say just in terms of the community support that you've received over these past many years in the area, in the Verde Valley area?
Yeah, definitely a lot of support. I think a lot of encouraging words everywhere you go. If people know you play basketball at Mingus, they're like, oh, wow, like, I hope you guys do well. Like, just random conversations like that you have with people around town and stuff. Especially through COVID, all their wishes are with us, and that was important. Well,
Chayce, best of luck at Central Arizona College. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, anytime. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by AIA State Commissioner of Officials, Brian Gessner. Stay with us here on Off the Bench. We'll be right back.
Two things we can count on every year.
A new set of tax rules and great weather here in northern Arizona.
Jackson Hewitt Tax Service, locally owned and operated by Lewis Rice since 1997, is here for you all year long.
Your neighborhood Jackson Hewitt tax office will help you in all of your taxing situations.
Electronic filing is always free with your tax preparation at Jackson Hewitt Tax Service.
Get more in return. Call 1-800-234-1040 for an office near you.
Welcome back to Off the Bench, Northern Arizona Prep Sports, presented by Rice Accounting and Jackson Hewitt Tax Services and Cottonwood Parks and Recreation. I am joined by a gentleman we have not talked to enough. It is AIA State Commissioner of Officials, Brian Gessner. Mr. Gessner, welcome back onto the show.
Thank you for having me, Philip. It's exciting to be here again.
Well, we're happy to have you. A lot of changes coming up in 2022 regarding some of the rule changes, one specifically being the shot clock rule, which we will go into. There's also a couple changes regarding baseball. We got a lot to talk about with Mr. Gessner. We're going to first start off. How's your summer going? How are you preparing for the upcoming seasons? What's been going down in the world of Mr. Brian Gessner?
Well, one thing that the AIA officiating department looks at, we're never satisfied with our previous season. We know we do a lot of things well, but we want to address the things that we don't do very well. So we're looking at improving some things there. Systems, communication channels and such. We're also a little bit concerned about what I termed as accelerated attrition with COVID. We're not really sure where we're going to land this year with the number of officials. So we're optimistic. The early goings of our registration process, people are coming back. We're a little concerned with our football numbers right now, but we believe that those people will all come back. So we're cautiously optimistic with the way people are registering to become officials.
I'd like to ask, though, some more. You kind of alluded a little bit to some of those challenges that you guys faced last year. Where are some of those specific improvements that you guys want to get into?
One thing is the communication channel. We improved our systems dramatically 3 years ago. We know there's no such thing as a foolproof system, but what we are working on now is texting. We want to be able to systematically text. People might not answer their phone, they might not respond to email right away, but studies show that people respond to text right away. So we're working on a mass communications program with texting.
Interesting. Okay, so implementing texting into the world of officiating. How interesting.
Absolutely.
Like I mentioned, there are going to be some rule changes coming up in the world of high school sports here in the state of Arizona, one of which the state has adopted a shot clock rule for high school basketball that's going to be starting in 2022. I want to make that very clear. The shot clock rule will not be seen this season, but it will be seen next season. So we just wanted to talk a little bit about that. So let's just jump into that. How does that process work for the NFHS to come down with that decision to implement the shot clock back in Arizona? We just talk about that process in general.
So the NFHS has a rules committee, which I sit on. And obviously that was the conversation of our meeting. How are we going to do this? What are we going to do? Are we going to approve it? And after animated and enthusiastic debate, it was decided, we voted to approve a systematic shot clock for the country. And at this point, it's been approved, and it's been approved for 2022. Like you said, we are now going to leave it up to our conferences to approve it by conference. We have a lot of work to do. There's a lot of rules within the rules that we have to determine, but now it's going to be left up to the conferences.
Okay. I'm curious, why did it take the state so long to adopt this shot clock rule? I played high school basketball in California. We had a shot clock. Why wasn't that seen throughout the entire state? Or honestly, throughout the entire state.
Well, throughout the entire country is probably a better word.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So we have a lot of empirical data. One thing the NFHS does is collect data, and we try and respond to what the data dictates. So when we look at the number of games played with shot clocks, because we tested it, what we found in the boys' game was the average time of possession per shot was about 15.6 seconds. The girls were between 15.8 and 16.1 seconds per possession. Well, if you have a 35-second shot clock, do you really need it when you're taking shots in 15 seconds? We did a survey, or we had a tournament here, the Visit Mesa tournament a couple of years ago, where we had the shot clock, and we charted every possession, and we had a team from New York that was get out and go, and their possessions for the entire tournament was about 13 seconds. And that's just not the New York team, that was for the entire tournament. There's very few shot clock violations. The biggest issue becomes you need a dedicated timer, and then of course we have to educate the officials and the players and the coaches on the mechanics of a shot clock, because it's not just like you throw the shot clock out there. For instance, do you use that shot clock for a backcourt violation? Do you even have a backcourt violation? Because you have two dedicated timers, it can be tricky. You could have a minute on the clock, and you can have, quite honestly, 59 seconds and counting down to 50, 51, 50, and the coach says, hey, we have a shot clock violation. Well, not necessarily, because it's when the possession of the ball is and when they reset that shot clock. So we have to determine, are we going to use that shot clock for backcourt violations? And that's an Arizona decision. That's not an NFHS decision. So that'll be by conference as well.
Now, what happens if a conference does not want to adopt the shot clock rule? What happens then?
Well, I'll share with you, we did a survey where we surveyed our coaches, our athletic directors, and our officials to see, and we asked those questions. And it was interesting, because the 1A conference, in this unscientific survey, they were against the shot clock. They don't want it. The 2A, the vote was very close. Now keep in mind, I don't know if these are going to be voting members or not, but the people that voted for it, they also said they don't really want it. 3, 4, 5, and 6A, they all wanted it. Now, keep in mind, in the 1A, 2A, and 3A, a lot of these athletic directors are also basketball coaches.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see when it comes to conference vote, what they decide to do, if they do decide to vote for it or not. When you look at the broad scope of the survey, athletic directors were about 53% in favor of the shot clock. Coaches, they were in about the 78% range, and officials were actually in about the 74% range to have it. So if you have a conference, a 2A versus a 3A, 2A doesn't have it, 3A does. When you play at that 3A, if they approve it, if 3A has it, they'll play under the shot clock rules. If they don't have it, then, or 2A, then we won't. It's as simple.
Okay. Well, I mean, so then in that instance, let's say a 2A school decided to play up and play against a 3A school. You can kind of clarify if that is even possible in general. But, I mean, you just mentioned, 2A school does not have the shot clock. They're not very much in favor of it, but 3A up, they are. So, I mean, what happens when you have that instance where you have a team like Sedona? They're 2A, they go play Camp Verde, they're 3A. Camp Verde likes the shot clock, Sedona doesn't. What happens in that instance?
You'll play with the shot clock. Whatever the home team has, you'll play with.
Okay.
So, and then when we get to our postseason, whatever the conference decided is what we're going to do. We'll play with the shot clock or without it, depending on what the conference has decided.
Right, of course, because then in that instance, you're having conference teams playing against conference teams. You don't have to worry about the crossover there. But you mentioned training. Obviously, this shot clock rule isn't going to be implemented until 2022. Have you guys started training for this particular change in the rules, or is it going to be something that's pushed off to next season?
We've started training. Arizona hosted Section 7, which is the Southwest states, a huge boys basketball tournament. There were some girls, but it's open recruiting for college coaches, and we had 324 games that all had a shot clock. So we were able to expose our officials to the shot clock. And we started the training process there. They had a ton of questions. We tried to answer the questions before the tournament started. As the tournaments went, we had more questions, and then after the tournament, we had more questions. So we had a great number of our officials statewide exposed to this tournament. And you're going to see some tournaments. There's going to be exceptions. Schools can ask during the regular season, I'm sure, if they want to have a shot clock, which going into it, if their conference approves it, will probably allow that to happen during some of these tournaments. So the more that we can expose our guys to, and not just the officials, the coaches, the players, the administrators, the timers, everybody, it's going to be a giant learning curve. And I'm going to tell you something, Philip, we're going to break a lot of eggs. We're going to make a lot of mistakes. Hopefully the coaches and players, administrators and fans and parents, all stakeholders will be patient with us, because most of these issues are going to be timing issues. But we're going to ask for your patience, and we'll get better as the season goes on.
Yeah, and that's got to be understandable. I mean, that should be the assumption. I know that there are some people who are going to be frustrated during the games when, the shot clock violation goes off and some teams aren't ready to prepare for it, or, if we're going to have issues regardless. So, yes, I do agree, though. When we do get to 2022, everyone, please take it easy on our officials when the shot clock rule is finally implemented, because they're learning along the way just like we are. And thankfully, we have AIA State Commissioner of Officials Brian Gessner here to tell us a little bit about some of the other rule changes that we could see coming up. I had seen, and we'll talk a little bit about it now, I had seen a couple other decisions. I'm not sure how many of them are set in stone right now. There are a couple that are kind of down the pipeline, some conversations that the NFHS has had. And of course, I want to clarify, these are rule changes that are going to be affected in 2022, not here in 2021. But Brian, I want to ask, there is a rule change regarding baseball about taking signs from the catcher. Can you elaborate a little bit on that and what that rule change is?
I can, thank you. More and more often now, coaches are calling pitches from the dugout. Okay. And what's happening, pitchers, quite honestly, are balking because they're not coming to a complete stop anymore. Now they have to acknowledge the catcher once they basically coming to a complete stop, so we don't have a balk situation. And it's as simple as that. Just acknowledge the catcher, you serve and deliver.
Okay. Was there an increase in balks over the season last year? Or has the NFHS or even the AIA seen an increase in balks as to why that? Okay, so you're shaking your head.
We have. Yeah, I'm shaking my head. Yeah, correct. Yeah, we have seen a lot more balk, and there was a lot of confusion with the balk call and coaches not understanding it, but they kind of created their own situation by not allowing the catcher to relay the signal, and that's what we're going to encourage. That let the catcher receive the signal from the coach, and then the coach come in. But now you see these kids that they got the call charts on their wrists, and that's what they're doing. They're going to that, and they pitch 127's a curveball. So that's what they're doing now.
It's interesting. We talked about, obviously, a lot of coaches adopting the shot clock rule, which they're going to have to starting next season. And then now baseball coaches are going to have to adopt this rule, new rule as well. But it seems to me like both of these rule changes are very applicable to the next level. Obviously, if you're going to be pitching at the college level, because we're at the high school level, if you want to go to the college level or even the professional level, you don't want to be a pitcher who balks, because obviously you're going to be allowing a lot of people on base. Your ERA is going to be terrible if they come around to score. And it's going to be bad. So you want kids to develop that sort of, like you said, that pause. They have to come set. We had an issue during the playoffs. Paradise Honors was playing against Mingus Union High School. Paradise Honors softball pitcher, she kept throwing illegal pitches because she wouldn't come set before she threw the pitch. And now something like this, while it is at the baseball level, and I'm sure it's applicable as well to the softball level, it seems to be like it's solving a problem, and also in a lot of weird ways preparing kids for that next level.
It's a good point. Although I'm in the high school environment, that's my platform. And that's a whole nother conversation we can have about kids going to the next level. Because quite truly and honestly, only 3% of our kids go to the next level. Maricopa County now, football doesn't exist at the junior college level, so we lost those scholarship opportunities. That being said, regardless of going to the next level, it better prepares them for the next season or the current season. The last thing you want is in a state playoff game is to balk in a winning run.
Yeah, that would be the absolute worst thing, as opposed to maybe giving up a game-winning home run. That would be even worse. Although I think a balk would be a little more embarrassing. But again, speaking with AIA State Commissioner of Officials Brian Gessner, there are some other rule changes that could be coming that are down the pipeline. Can we talk about a few of those? I know there are some regarding baseball, there are some regarding softball, and a few regarding track.
So probably one of the more significant ones is in football. And the offensive line being able to go low in a shotgun formation. That's one that we're going to be able to initiate this year. In the past, it was only when the quarterback was under center, but now it's going to be when he's in the shotgun, but it has to be immediate. That's one that's going to be challenging to enforce because we don't really have video on it yet. So we're going to be challenged with that rule. And of course, football's our most popular sport. And that's going to be a huge, huge challenge for us to enforce. We're also looking at intentional grounding from a quarterback standpoint. We're going to be all over that this year. If a kid throws the ball and he throws it on the track, that's going to be intentional grounding. That's the way we're going to enforce it. Hopefully our guys get that message. Hopefully the coaches understand that and teach it appropriately. It's not the pro rule. It's not the college rule. This is high school, so we do a little bit different. One thing I'd like to talk about is every year the AIA creates a coaches meeting. One thing we learned last year, we can do a lot of this electronically. We don't have to be in person anymore. Zoom does wonderful things. And now we're going to be doing our coaches meeting electronically. And for the first time, we're going to ask the coaches to take a rules question test. It's not the same as the officials. It's about half as many, but we want to get these coaches in the rule book so they have a better understanding of the rules. And this will be for all NFHS sports. So it'll be interesting to see the feedback we get. Some are going to like it, some aren't going to like it, some are going to look at it as a nuisance, others are going to say, hey, this is great, gets me into the rule book. So that's one thing that we're going to be doing this year that I'm really interested in hearing what the feedback will be on that.
Yeah, I am as well. It's important that coaches know the rules just as much as the officials. And I myself, as a broadcaster, may need to take that quiz as well and get reaffirmed with some of the new updates in terms of the ruling from the AIA. So let's jump into officiating in general. I know the fall sports season is coming up very, very soon. We're almost under a month away, and it's only getting closer. So, Brian, I want to ask: is the AIA looking for officials right now? Has the training process already begun? Is it now shifted into the spring?
No, we're always looking for officials. In fact, we did. We kicked off 2 new programs. Last year, we started a recruiting incentive program where existing officials, if they recruited new guys, they got registration fees as credits. So quite honestly, depending on how many guys you recruited, you could have a lifetime registration paid for just by on your recruiting. Something we started this year, late last year, was we asked the athletic directors to nominate a boy and a girl from every school that they believe would be good official candidates, and then we would take it from there. So we have a lot of people that were nominated for this scholarship. We'll pay for everything, and then we'll assign a veteran official to see to it that these people are successful. We want to nurture them. I'm not sure it's really a mentor program. It could be the start of a mentoring program, but we want to be able to nurture them through officiating. It's a great, great way to make some part-time money, especially for some young people. I mean, you can go work at some of these part-time gigs, or you can officiate and make $300, $400, $500 a week. One thing we were able to do is we got a raise for our officials this coming year. So they're going to be making a lot more money. Not that anybody does it at the high school level for money, but everybody does it at the high school level for money. You're not going to do this for free. So there's great opportunity for young people that Their careers are ending in high school. I mean, you can play city ball, you can play intramurals in college, but this is a great way to stay in the game that you love, be part of an officiating community, the family that we call officials, or fraternity, if you will, even though we do have women in it. It's a great way to stay in the sport that you love. And if you do things right, keep your mouth shut, do what you said, what you're told, listen and perform, the opportunity in Arizona is unbelievable to get to the next level. Quite honestly, you have a better chance to get to a collegiate level as an official than you do as an athlete.
So a possible career choice for anybody who is interested in continuing their sports career in a different facet. I myself stopped playing sports after my sophomore year in high school, did a little intramural in college, but that doesn't really count. It's more just like pickup. But I myself have found a second life to my sports career here as a sports broadcaster. And while not everybody can be a sports broadcaster, officiating is definitely a possibility for anybody to look into. Visit the AIA website for more direct information on how to become an official. It sounds like there's some good money in it, is what Mr. Gessner is saying. But of course, have some passion alongside it, because if you do anything for money, you're not doing it for passion. But I do want to ask, you talk a little bit about that mentorship in that new program. What can you say in general about sort of the mentorship aspect of being an official?
So true mentorship programs, you have to have a mentor and a mentee that have like minds, so it comes together. You can't force mentorship, but one thing we can force is leadership. And we're very fortunate in Arizona to have a lot of people that are committed to improving officiating and will seek out young officials to help them along. I don't know if I'd necessarily call it a mentor program, but we do assign veteran officials to these younger officials, and we walk them through the season. This is what you should expect at the beginning of the year. Here's going to be your trials and tribulations, and we can help you overcome those, how to better speak to players and coaches, because one thing that these coaches, quite honestly, are demanding is they want open communication. Now, some people say that's just a way of, hey, I just want to complain, but a lot of these coaches have a great perspective on things, and it's unique. We have to get along, because without officials, it's just recess. But with officials, you now have a coordinated effort to play a contest. And we have these veteran officials working with these young people and help them overcome some of these obstacles. And our goal is to get them to that second year, that third year, that fourth year, and then eventually get them into leadership.
Without officials, it is just recess. It's something that I will forever remember and hope I can utilize at one point in my broadcast career. And he is the king of the officials, AIA State Commissioner of Officials, Brian Gessner. Mr. Gessner, thank you very much for coming back on the show to talk to us about some of these rule changes we could be seeing coming up next season.
Thank you, Philip. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. We're going to end the show here. I'd like to thank all my guests for coming on the show this week. Mingus Union girls golf coach Jeffrey Neugebauer, Mingus Union High School former two-sport athlete Chayce Doerkson, and of course, AIA State Commissioner of Officials Brian Gessner. That is going to do it for this episode of Off the Bench. I'm Philip Katafamo, wishing you a great rest of your week. We'll see you again next time.